Okay, let's get into step one, the client questionnaire. And in this lesson, you're going to learn all about the client questionnaire and how to get the answers that you need. So, the questionnaire, why do we even need it? I know you probably hear me downplay the questionnaire a lot, and I still use a questionnaire. It's still really important to my process, but I don't heavily rely on it. What I do with my questionnaire is I use it kind of like a heads up into my culture creating session. The culture creating session is where I really dive deep into what's in my client's head and transfer the information from them to me and even do a little bit of brainstorming because I feel like I'm able to go so much, so much deeper when I'm live with them and when I do it through that strategic process. But I do want to know before I'm heading into that 2 hour phone call what to expect, what's even going on in my client's head. And I also want to get a lot of the basic information that I feel like I don't need to be talking about with them live, that they can just write down and quickly send to me so that, again, I have a heads up going into the culture creating session. So, what kind of questions do we ask in the questionnaire? Now, I like to ask a lot of basics, like mostly like what, who, and how questions, like who is your business or who is your ideal client? What is your business? How is it run? Like, again, really, really basic questions that I feel like I don't need to go in depth in person about. Next thing is specifics about what a successful project looks like. Because a lot of the times a client will go in with really certain expectations. This is something I do on my sales call, but I also do it in the questionnaire just to reiterate it and to establish if there are any specifications that I need to be aware of before heading into the project of what they really, really are looking for. I also ask who their direct and larger competitors are. Again, it's a really basic question. And then at the end, I ask a few deeper why questions to get what they think the best answer is. What are your ideal clients' problems, or what do they struggle with? You could ask, what are some bad habits they have, or how does your ideal client make a decision? Those kinds of things I qualify as deeper questions. And the reason why I say to get what they think is the best answer is because there are so many things going into the questionnaire, so many thoughts, so many things affecting it. We can't put so much pressure on the questionnaire. And a lot of the times, like as they're writing the answers to the questionnaire, maybe they're feeling really, really stressed at that moment and they don't have a lot of time, so they just rush something really, really quick. Or maybe they write, oh, one time this person told me this, and so this is what I feel like the answer should be, and they don't really know. They're just doing what people told them. It's not like they're trying to deliberately mislead you, but I do think that a lot of the times there are so many factors going into how a client could fill out a questionnaire that we can't just solely rely on that. So on the questionnaire, keep the questions really, 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 really straightforward. And then during that live culture creating session, that's when we get to rephrase them and get more instinctual and truthful answers. That's when we get to ask the follow-up answers to see the reasoning of why they put all those questions on there. I always tell my clients to not spend more than 15 minutes on the entire questionnaire. And on those deeper questions, I even put in parentheses next to the question, do not spend more than 3 minutes on this question if you can't figure it out, or if you can't answer this in 3 minutes, please just move on. Because I don't want them having to scrounge their brain for what they think the answer should be. And if they don't really know what the answer is right off the top of their head, then I'm like, it's fine. We'll talk about it. Don't spend a lot of time on this. Okay, so you've got the questionnaire, but once you get the answers back, how do you interpret those answers? And throughout this whole time while I'm talking about interpreting the answers, I write all of my interpretations down on the culture creating session slide deck that I'm going to give you on step 3. I do have a workbook for this section as well that you can interpret your answers down, but feel free to write down your thoughts in any way though. Okay, the first way is you just are going to get a quick grasp on what the answers are. This is mainly what the workbook is for, is to help you get that quick grasp on the answers. And I want you to, in order to get that quick grasp, I want you to know any adjectives that stick out to you. And even if they're just like writing down their ideal client and they're saying like silly or smart or whatever, any adjectives you see in the entire questionnaire, write it down. Things that stick out to you, there doesn't have to be a rhyme or a reason, but if you're like, oh, that's interesting, write it down. Things that you want to know more about, these are things that you're like, I need more clarification on that. I want to ask more follow-up questions. Write that down so you can ask it. Things that need more clarification, things that feel surface level. There are some things I see on a questionnaire I'm like, I don't feel like this is the real problem, or I don't think you've really actually thought about this. This is not the real answer. There's something deeper to this that I think we could go in. You can always tell when you get a surface level answer is when people don't put a lot of emotion or feelings into their answers. Like if they don't put a lot of adjectives into it, and that's how you know that that might be a surface level answer that you need to go a little bit deeper on. I want you to know any patterns that you see. If you see your client doing a lot of this or that, write that down. Okay, so let's dive deeper into the questionnaire though. Now that you're like, okay, yeah, I've got a feel for it, let's go deeper and start to actually find things and link them together. So I want you to go through that questionnaire again after you have read it and gotten a basic grasp of it. And I want you to read it from your client's perspective. And this is why. Who your client is as a person links strongly back to who their ideal customer or audience is. Whether or not they attract someone who is the total opposite of who they are, or whether they are somebody who attracts somebody who's really similar to them. I want you to ask yourself what you can learn about your customer's personality from your client's personality. So go back and read that questionnaire from your audience's perspective. So for example, if you're wondering, okay, what the heck does that even mean? From the client's questionnaire, here's a little expert. It might say, my favorite part about my job is the connection I have with my clients. Now you could take that into a translation from your audience's perspective and say something like, family and connection are important to me, and I want a company that values that as well. See, I took something that was my favorite part about my client's job, and I was like, you know what? Her audience probably really values that too. Let's see what else I can draw from that. Family is really important to her. She's probably not going to want to have another company that doesn't value family. So yeah, family is important to my client. From the client's questionnaire, she might put, I have a strong sense of elevated style. I'm very driven. I've been a do-it-yourselfer for years, but I realize I might need some help. Now, the translation into your target audience's perspective might be, I won't want to buy your product at first because I'm going to try and do it myself first, and I have a really strong sense of style, though I realize I'm going to need help conveying that. Next thing you could do is draw assumptions about the audience from the questionnaire. You're going to get really, really assumptuous, and that's okay. Your client during the culture creating live session is going to be able to tell you whether or not those assumptions are true and whether you need to fix something. But for now, just draw any assumptions you can. So if the audience is, for example, a new mom that is an influencer, here's a few examples of what you may be able to draw from that. That's the only piece of information that you have. So they're probably really busy. Time is important to them. They probably need to multitask quite a bit. They need to put on a certain image because they're kind of like that influencer Instagram person. They feel under the pressure with that image. Constantly need to coming up with content. Stress of learning how to be a mom. Has aspirations to educate her audience. Wants to eventually come out with products of her own. I'm just going off of my own experience here. Maybe your experience with Instagram influencers that are moms are totally different than mine. Again, that's kind of what makes brand strategies so different from one another. Is this is my experience from what I can draw from an Instagram influencer. So there you go. There's a few examples. Oh, and she likes giving advice. Okay, so what did we learn today? Ask really straightforward questions in the questionnaire, and then elaborate in person. Don't let your clients spend a lot of time on the questionnaire. Use the bonus worksheet to interpret the answers into a basic overview. Read the questionnaire from your client's perspective, and then draw assumptions about the audience from the questionnaire. Don't be afraid to get stereotypical in there. Okay, so that's everything for the questionnaire portion of this phase. In the next video, I'm going to show you what's actually in my questionnaire today and just show you the questions. You're also going to get a link to my questionnaire and you're going to get a link to that workbook. So make sure to check out those other videos and downloads.